Okay, we're going to look at the review sheet that you have for topic 3. Let's look at our first question on it. And it says if point is located at 3 on a number line, which is right here, on 3, where could another point be located if the length of the segment is 10? So you could go in the forward direction, 10, or in the backwards direction, 10. And you would end up at 13 or at -7. Okay. So if we went backwards, we'd get to -7, and if we went forwards, we'd get to 13. Okay, so our second question says that S is between T, V, and R. Sorry, S is between T and V. So we're going to place our points on the line here. We have T, S is between T and V, and R is between S and T. So R has to go down here. Now that we have our points placed, we can place now some of the distances that were given. TR is 6, length of 6. RV, so the whole spot here from R to V is 23. And TR and SV are the same thing, so we can put tick marks on TR and SV to know that they are the same thing. Our question then is, what is RS? So this portion in here, what is RS? Well, if they're the same value and two of them together equal 23, we would divide by 2 to get our answer, the 11.5. Right? Suppose M lies on CD. So here's M, and it's on the point CD. We are told that CM is 2 times MD. So this is twice the value that MD is. And we know that all together, CD is 18. So the way we're going to figure this out is that we know that this is worth twice it, and this is worth once it. So if we add those all together, we get 3x. And all together they're 18, which would give us x is 6. Not our answer, though. We want to know what MD is, not what x is. Since they're the same thing, we can substitute in and get MD is 6. Okay. Number 4, I've laid out a picture for you here. We have J between H and K, like it says. Then we're told that HJ is 4x plus 9, and JK is 3x plus 3. Now you're also told that altogether KH is 33. We need to set up an equation to find the value of it. We can see from the picture here that the first portion plus the second portion is going to equal 33. So if we set up our equation, it would be 4x plus 9 plus 3x plus 3 equals 33. You would want to go through solving all of that. You'd end up with 7x is 21, and when you divide by 7, you get x is 3. That is our question. What's the value of x? So our answer is x is 3. Now I've drawn another picture here. I'm told that M is between L and N, so here I have M in the middle of them, or between them. I'm going to place my expressions. LM is 3x plus 8, and MN was 2x minus 5, and we're again told what the whole value is. In other words, this is the same type of problem that we just did. So we're going to add up our two portions. That's our first one, 3x plus 8 plus 2x minus 5, and it's all going to equal 23. When we add them all together, we end up with, these would give us 5x, and it would end up equaling 20, and then we divide, and we get x is 4. Not our answer, though. When we read it again, it says, what is LM and NM? So we can substitute in to find it. LM, we're told, is 3 times x, which is 4, plus 8. We get 12 plus 8, which is 20. So LM is 20. And then we want to find MN. We know that MN is 2x plus minus 5, so we'd get 2 times 4 minus 5, or 20 minus 8 minus 5, which is 3. You were asked 2 questions, and you're going to answer 2 questions. Okay, on number 6, we're told that it's the midpoint. So what does the midpoint tell us? That the 2 segments are exactly equal to each other. We are also told that the whole distance, LT, is 16. So if we wanted to find the 2 in the middle, we could set up an equation for it. It would be x plus x equals 16, which is 2x is 16. When we divide, we get x is 8. So each one of our sections would be 8. Our answers. Okay. Question 7 is the same type of question, but we have expressions now instead of just numbers, and we're not told that it's a midpoint. So we have J is between H and K, so here's J between H and K. We're labeling what HJ is and what JK is. We're told the total, so we need to set up an equation to solve it. We would get 2x plus 4 plus 3x plus 3, 2x plus 4 plus 3x plus 3 equals the whole distance, which is 22. When we solve this, we would end up with 5x is 15, which is x is 3. Not our answer, though. We're being asked to solve for HJ and JK. So let's try HJ first. HJ is 2x plus 4, so we would do 2 times 3 plus 4, which would give us 6 plus 4, which is 10. Okay. And then we would be looking for JK, which is 3x plus 3. So we would do 3 times 3 plus 3, which would be 9 plus 3 is 12. So those would be our actual answers now, not what x equals, because that's not what we were asked. Okay, if we look at 8, it tells us that E is between D and F. You see the picture that I drew here? I have E in between D and F. I'm told that DE is 10, DF, the full distance, is 16, and I want to find EF. That's where I have my question mark there. I can set up an equation to solve this. I know that my 2 smaller sections, 10 plus something, which we'll use a variable for, is 16. Then when I subtract 10 from both sides, I get x equals 6. Not really our answer yet, because we're asked what is EF. Well, we know that EF is x, so we can substitute it in. We now know that EF is 6. This is our final answer. Okay, let's look at number 9. We're again told that B is between A and C, so I've drawn B here in the between A and C. AB is x plus 2, so I've written it down here at AB. We know what BC is, 7x minus 3, and we're now trying to find out the full amount. In this case, we actually can't come up with a number for it. all we can say for the full amount is that it is going to be both of these together. So x plus 2 plus 7x minus 3 equals AC. And all we can do now is combine like terms. And we have an x and a 7x, so we could combine those to get 8x. We have a 2 and a negative 3, which combine to be negative 1. That is as close to an answer as we can get. Okay. Number 10, we're asked to find the coordinates of a midpoint given two endpoints. I've written down the formula for you here, which basically comes out to mean x1 plus x2 over 2 is really the average of the x's. Okay. And then y1 plus y2 is now the average, and this time of the y's. So really, when we're looking for a midpoint, we're looking for the average of the x's to be our new x value, and then the average of the y's to be our y value. So let's go ahead and take our numbers and plug them in. We have, at our first point, we have x1 and y1, and then x2 and y2. Okay, so if we're looking to add the two x's together, we would start with the x from the first term and the x from the second term, and we would put a plus sign between them. We want to take those and divide it by 2. That's going to be the x value of our ordered pair. Then the y value, we're going to take the two y's that we have would be 3 and 5. We're going to add them together and divide them by 2. We're going to put it all inside an ordered pair. So now all we have to do is simplify our x and our y. So we have negative 4 plus 0 over 2 would be negative 4 over 2. And 3 plus 5 over 8 would be 8 over 2. When we simplify those, we get the ordered pair negative 2 comma 4. That would be the coordinates of our midpoint. Okay. Question number 11 is the same type of question. We're asked to find the coordinates of the midpoint, so we're going to find the average of the x's. So I'll take my two x values, 2 and 10, and I'm going to add them together and divide by 2 to get the average. Then my y value will be the average of my y's. So I'm going to add my two y's together. So we have x plus negative 3, and we're going to divide by 2 to get the average. Now we just have to do the math. This gives me 8 over 2, and this one here gives me 4 over 2. So I can simplify one more time, and I get 4 comma 2. That is the coordinates of my midpoint, the average of the x's and then the average of the y's. Okay. Question 12, we see the word midpoint in it, but it's important to read the question because this is not asking us to find the midpoint, it's actually giving us a midpoint. It says find the coordinates of the other endpoint given the midpoint and point J. So this is the way we solve this is we are starting with an endpoint and a midpoint, and we want to take the same whatever distance and slope we had done to get to 1, we want to duplicate it to get to our new endpoint. The way we're going to do that is to start with our endpoint, go to our midpoint, and see what kind of pattern we had there on both the x's and the y's, and then duplicate it to get to our next point. So we had here 7, from 7 to 1. We want to look at that and see what happened to get us from 7 to 1. So we went down 6. If we started at 7 and subtracted 6, we'd get to 1. So to get to our next x value, we're going to subtract 1 again. And subtract 6 again. 1 minus 6 is going to give us -5. That will be our new x value. And if we look at the y's, to get from 2 to -2, we had to subtract 4. We're going to do the same pattern again, subtracting 4, and -2 subtracting 4 will give me -6. So our new endpoint is going to be the same pattern applied. Okay. Number 13 is an interesting question because it asks us for midpoints and endpoints, but it doesn't give us any y values. It says if M, which is the midpoint of LT, has a coordinate of 4 and L has a coordinate of -2, what is the coordinate of T? You can assume here that you're dealing with just a number line. In other words, your y values are zeros. So you could plot your points on the number line, and whatever you jumped to get to the midpoint, you want to make the same jump to get to the next point. We can figure it out the same way. We're just going to make our ordered pairs be, 0. So to get from -2 to 4, we had to add 6. And if we do that again, we make another jump of 6, we're going to end up at 10. And on the y side, to get from y to y, we added nothing. If we do that again, add nothing, we're still going to be at 0. So our new ordered pair would be 10, 0, or if you were talking about just on the number line, you'd be right there at 10. Okay. Number 14 asks you to calculate RS given R and S. This is asking you for to use the distance formula. I've written it down here on the page. And all we need to do now is plug our numbers into the formula and get it. So the first part is asking us for x2 minus x1. So let's look here. x2 might help if we label our points here. Our first point is an x and a y. Our second point is also an x and a y. And we usually call them x1 and y1 and x2 and y2 just to signify what point they're coming from. So we could have here the difference in the x's would be x1 minus x2 minus x1. Okay? So we would subtract them, and then to finish off the formula, we'd put in parentheses and we would take them to the second power. Now we're ready to do the y parts. y2 would be -1, and y1 would be 3. The formula says we subtract them. And then once we get all that, we have to take the square root of it. So this gives us, inside the parentheses, we have 4 minus 2, which is 2 squared, plus, inside our parentheses here, we have -1 minus 3, which is -4. Very important to keep the parentheses in until you've done the squaring. You're going to end up with the wrong answer if you don't. Time to do the exponents now. You get 4 plus 16, and we still have a square root under it. When we add those together, we get the square root of 20. Now, if the question were to ask you to show that to the first decimal place, what you would do is put it in your calculator and round it. But if the question was asking you to show it in simplest form, you would have to then simplify that square root or that radical. You would do that with your factor tree. 20 would be 2 times 10, and 10 is 2 times 5. You have a group of 2's on the inside, so they're going to become 1, 2 on the outside, and you'd have 2 root 5. Okay.